Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I would complete the Front-End Mentor Challenge, the Sunnyside Agency, using Editor X. If you want to join along, there will be a link to this challenge down below. Once you've gone to the Front-End Mentor site and signed up, you'll be able to visit the Challenge Hub home and download the starter files. Once you've downloaded the starter files, you'll have to unzip it and you'll have a folder like this. I would recommend installing Visual Studio Code because it's a bit easier to access this information, as you can see here. If we first of all look at the style guide, the colours that we need listed here, the font size and the font families that we need to use. The first step is to create our site on Editor X. So we will create a new site, select Editor X, and we will edit on a blank canvas. Now that the site is created, the first step I like to do is to add the color styles and fonts. So for changing each font, we'll click on this heading 1 font. We'll reference to see what our fonts are. We've got Barlow and Francis. I think that's how it's said. So I will copy and paste. We shall see. Right, we've got Barlow Extra Light and Barlow Medium available. What we need, 600. So I imagine that's probably going to be Barlow Medium, and then we can click Bold. Though I don't think Barlow is the heading font. Let's have a quick look at the design picture. No. Sorry about that, got the wrong one. This is going to be the heading fonts. And we're going to want semi-bold. Yeah. And we want that to be bolded, as that's probably the closest to the 900 weight. And then we will apply this style. And we will do the same for style 2, heading font 2. Let's look at the design again. Okay. Do that for heading font 3. You can probably guess it. I'm going to do this for all 6 heading fonts. Okay, now that the heading fonts are done, we need to set up our second font, which is the Barlow font. We do the same for the paragraph fonts. Enter the Barlow. We're going to want medium, we want that to be bold, I believe. Yeah. And we will do the same for the 3 paragraph font selections. now that the fonts are all done, we move on to setting up the colour styles. So reference our style guide. Let's look at the primary HLS. We will copy that, but because you can only use hex values RGB and HBS settings for the colours, we will have to convert these colours into one of these values, which I like to use the W3 Schools converter. Just copy and paste that in, and then grab that hex value, back to our sites, apply, and now we'll grab the next colour, go over to the converter, grab the hex value, and click on the colour we want to edit, click on the hex value, paste it in, apply, and we need to do this for all of these colours. Oops. Now that all the primary colours are done, I'm going to move on to doing the neutral colours, which I will apply to the background and text section. Okay, that is all the colours set up. Now we can start working on the design. So as we can see from this image, we've got the navigation bar, big text and an arrow, and this background image. First I'm going to start on the navigation bar. Got a little bit of padding on each side. So we will click the header, which will bring up this panel, and the first thing I'm going to do is apply some padding on the left and the right. I'm going to go with 5%, which I think looks about right. for each side. And then we're going to select the logo. We're going to tell it to dock to the left, and we will change that vector up. We will upload media, upload from my computer. I'm going to go to the folder that we've downloaded from Frontend Mentor and upload the images. You can do these one at a time, or you can do them all in one go by selecting them and bringing them over. I'm going to bring all the pictures in now to save time later on. And all the mobile ones as well. Right, now they're all done, let's change site files and find our logo. Where is it? There it is. At the minute we can't see it because it's on a white background, but we'll fix that in a minute. First we're going to add the image to our hero section. You can add an image as a background image, but because we've got two separate images for this section, one for the mobile and one for the desktop, we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to click on this add elements button and select the image, drag and drop, and I'm going to stretch that to take up the whole viewport of this section. We're going to click change image and add our image header. Now I'm going to select this header. I'm going to go over to this panel. I'm going to change the position to pinned, and we're going to want it to overlap the next section. I'm also going to select this section from the layers panel, and we're going to give this a minimum height of 100 viewport height. Okay, now we'll carry on working on the header now that we can see it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this header into a grid, and we're going to click here, and we want 3 columns, and this first column we're going to change from 1 FR to max content. The navigation menu we're going to place in the 3rd grid column. I'm going to expand it to take up the full column's width. And now we're going to add this button. To do that, we click on the add elements, we find button and attach it to the header. Contact it. So we're going to click this button to change the text. We want the text to read contact in capital letters. Then we click on this little paintbrush and we start styling it. So as we can see that's the hover design. On this design, zoom in a bit more, we've got a white button, black text and a different font. So we will make the button white first of all, then we will come down to text, change that text to black, and we will change that font to the heading 6 Barlow font, which is way too big at the minute, which we can adjust by selecting the font size and lowering it to 18. That looks good. Okay, then what we're going to do is I'm going to click on the header again, click on the 1FR, and we're going to change this by clicking here back to max content. I'm going to click on the button. I'm going to push that to the edge, and as you can see on the design, we've got a bit of a gap here. We're going to click on the header section, and we're going to scroll down to display, and we're going to add a gap. So we've got a gap between the button and this section here. Let's try 24 pixels first. No, I think that needs a little bit more. We'll try 48. I think 48 looks quite good. I'm going to change the width of this page to make it a little bit more easier for us to see whilst working along. Let's try. No, that's probably not small enough. Let's try. That's a bit better. We'll add the rest of the navigation links now. Actually, we will add. Click on this pages, and we will add a new page. Add a standard page. We're going to call this page about. We've got services and projects. I'm going to add another new page. I'm going to move this over to my other monitor and start copy and pasting because it's just a little bit quicker. Add another page for projects. And head back to our, click up here to head back to our home page. Then we click on the menu, manage menu, add items, site pages, and we're going to select add all of those pages. Next, as you can see, they need to be a white color, so we'll click the menu, click on the inspector panel, design, text. We want the text to be white, and we want the text to be our paragraph font. As you can see, the home is still grayed out because that's the currently clicked item, but we can change that by clicking on the clicked section in the inspector panel and change that to white as well. And we will do the hover effects later on in the video. So let's check the design. Next thing we need to do is add this H1 heading. We're going to click on the add elements, bring the title over and attach. We're going to type this in because we want it to be in all capital letters. We are creatives. I'm going to click on the when the inspector panel's open, we're going to click here, go to the sizing, and going to have it be sized to max content first of all. Then we're going to click on the styles. We're going to select this as a H1 heading. I think that's too big at the moment, so we're give it a scaling text size, which means it will shrink as the screen gets smaller. We want the smallest it's going to be. Let's try 42, and that'll be for mobile. And we want the biggest it to be, should we say 64? Maybe 72. Yeah, I think 72 looks about right, but we have got some spacing between these letters which we can adjust by scrolling down to the spacing section, and we will add a 0.1 m of spacing. Let's have a look. I think that looks about right. We will now change the colour to white. We want to make sure this is docked to the centre of the page. I'm going to give it a top margin of 150 pixels. That means it won't overlap the header, and a little bit of space in there as well. Let's have a quick check at the design. Yeah, I think that looks about right. Next, we need to add our arrow. So we click on the add elements. We're going to add a shape this time. So put the shape in. We're going to change the basic shape. Site files, and we're looking for the arrow down. I'm going to add that. I think that needs to be, oh, that looks like a pretty good size, to be fair. Need to move this up. We'll select both of them using shift and select, and then we're going to stack them. There's always a bit of space there, so next we will come over to the inspector panel and increase this item spacing to 48. I think that looks about right, though I am going to change the want that in the center. Let's preview this quickly. Okay, I think we probably want this to be up a smidge more. Move that bottom margin. I'm going to just drag that there, and we'll change this. Let's try 120. I think that looks a bit closer to the design. And that is the hero section done. So now we need to scroll down a little bit. We're going to click add section. We're going to add a new blank section. So as we can see on the image, this new section has got some text, an image, image, text, image with text overlaid on two sections. So we can split this into a grid. We want to click on this section, we want to click other, we want 2 columns and 3 rows. So it's now split this section into 3 columns and 3 rows. As we can see from the picture, these sections are quite big. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the size of each of these sections. I'm going to click on this here, click on the min max, and I'm going to give it a minimum of 300 pixels. Nope, let's try 400 pixels. I think maybe 450. I think 450 looks about right, and we're going to do that for each one of these grid sections. In this first grid box, we've got this text, so we're going to click on our elements panel. We're going to add a title. I'm going to scratch that. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to click on the Elements panel. I'm going to add a container. We want this container to fill that grid square. We don't want the grid to have any background, so we're going to turn the background opacity to 0. Or you could just change the color if you wish. Now we're going to add our title. My copy and paste added an extra couple spaces there. And we want the font to be bigger than that, so we're going to scale the text at its smallest. Let's try 32, and at its biggest 42 maybe. Maybe 54. I think 54 looks good, but we're going to make the smallest it can be 44. And we're going to change how much width it's allowed to take to, let's try 60 for the minute. Getting closer. Next we're going to add our paragraph. So we click on the Add Elements, drag the paragraph in. I'm going to copy and paste the text over. Fix this white space. Click OK. I'm going to drag that down this way for a little bit first at the minute. Now we've got the link. For the link, I'm going to add a container. I'm going to attach that. I'm going to give it a minimum height of 100 pixels for the moment, and we're going to give it a width of 200 pixels, which I will adjust in a minute. Just move these two up a bit more for the minute. Right, let's change. Now we need to add our link. We're going to select the paragraph. I'm going to attach that, and we're going to change the text. To learn more. I'm going to dock that to the left and to the top. Now we're going to go on the min height, and we're going to select none, which means that it will take the height that's used will be the height of the text. And we're going to reduce this width to, let's do 150. I need to select the paragraph and make sure. Need that to go away for a second. There we go. To 100%. And that container's still too big, so we're going to select it again and try 100. 100's not quite big enough. 100. Oh, 10 is definitely not enough. 110. Let's go with 110. I'm going to select the text again, and I'm going to make sure that's aligned to the center. Some reason of a container. That's fine. 120 after all. Get rid of that background colour. Change that back, change the width to 105, that container. Make sure that text, I'm going to change the text to max content instead, and then we're going to dock that to the center of the container. Oh, I just realised this was supposed to be in capital letters. Let's change that. Move that container up a little bit for now. Next we need to create this little underline. What we're going to do for that is I'm actually going to add another container. We're going to attach that to that container. I want the width to take up 100%. We want it to be from the left, and we want the height to be, let's try 5 pixels, and we want that docked to the bottom. Right, it's now underlining it. I think that thickness needs to be a bit more. Let's try 8 pixels. I think 8 pixels looks good. Then with that container that we've just put in, we're going to change the color to the yellow, and we're going to add some corners. Let's try 50. Just a bit of guessing at the moment. Okay, yeah, 50 looks good. We're going to keep that container that's created the line selected, and we're going to bring the opacity down, maybe 40%. Have a look. Yeah, I think 40% looks about right. With that cake container selected, we're going to also give it a little bit of no, we're going to actually adjust it, and we're going to translate it on the y-axis, and we want to move it up. Let's try 2 pixels. I don't think that's quite far enough. Let's try 5. Let's try 10, make sure. Right, it doesn't seem to want to let me move it via using that way for some reason. So we will put that back to 0, and we will add some margin on the bottom instead. 5 pixels is too much. We will change that back to 2. Check the design. I think 2 looks about right, and we're going to now make this container a little bit bigger. Let's try that again, shall we? Bigger. Because we've got a little bit of overlapping of the yellow border on each side there, so let's make that, let's try 114. I think that looks about right. Now we're going to select all 3 of these holding shift, and I'm going to put them in a stack. We want everything in that stack. Select everything in the stack. Everything in that stack again. And we want that all aligned together, and we want that in the all aligned to the left, and I want the stack at the moment, we're going to just place it in the center. We need to select this paragraph, and we want the width to be 100%. We want that to the left, and we want that also to be 100% of this stack and to the left. Now, as we can see on the design, we've got, zoom out a little bit, quite a lot of space on each side, but it looks like there's more space on the left than there is on the right. So what we're going to do is, with this container selected, not the stack, the container that we put the stack into, we're going to scroll down to the docking margins and padding. We're going to select padding and we're going to add some padding to the side. I'm going to go with, should we say, let's try 15%. I'm going to actually do 20% on that side one. And we're going to dock this to that side, but we're going to also now change the maximum width here to 100% of for our stack. Now with the container selected again, we're going to add the padding on the other side. Click, and that padding on that side was a bit smaller. Let's try 10% first of all. I think that might need to be 15. I think that looks pretty spot on. I'm going to select this stack and give it a bit more space between the H2 and the paragraph and the button. With the stack selected, we're going to go to the display section and item spacing, and let's try 24. Click that off for the minute so we can get a better look. I think I've got an extra space there. There we go. Yeah, I think that's about right for the space in there. So next we need to add our image for this part. We're going to drag that over, attach, and I want that to fill up the whole grid space, so we'll stretch it. Then we'll change the image. We want the big image, that's going to be this one here, the desktop version. Okay, that's that section done. Let's move on to the next part. So we're just got to bring down, we're going to add the image, stretch it to fill the whole container, change the image, we want that image. Then instead of redoing all of this, I'm going to select the stack and press Ctrl and D to duplicate it, and then we're going to drag that stack into this section here, or you can do it from the panel and tell it what grid square you want it to take up, and that's grid square 1, 2, 3, and we want it in the fourth one, and we want it to take the full width. Now we just need to edit the text. Oh, little bit of a weird glitch there for some reason. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, and now we want to select that container line, or the line in the container, and change that to the red color. Okay, now we're moving on to the next section. So in this section we've got two background images with the text over the top. So we'll do the same, we will grab the image from the add panel, stretch, change the image, and we want the cherry image. Then we're going to want a title. Graphic design, I want that to have a width of max content. I'm going to want that in the center. Then we want a paragraph. I think, let's check the design. Okay, this text we want it to be aligned to the center. We want it to be that that dark green color. I think this text looks about the right size. We need to click our title text there. We want to change the sizing of that. I think the smallest we're probably going to want it to be is probably 32, with the biggest being maybe 42. I think actually the smallest will be 30 and the biggest will be 40. I think that looks about, try 38, well, not 98, 38. Yeah, I think that looks about right. And we also want that to be in the green color. We're going to select the text and holding shift to select the title, and we're also going to stack. Then we're going to place this in the center. We've got a bit more space in there, so we will adjust the amount of space there to, let's try 24. I think that looks a bit better. We make sure this is docked to the center. Make sure this is docked to the center. This text needs to be a bit wider, but what we'll do is select the stack and we'll give it a width of 60%. Oh. Let's try 70%. There we go. I think that looks about right. I'm going to click on this stack and I'm going to give it a little bit of margin on the bottom. Let's try 48. Yeah, I think 48 looks about correct. Now we do the other side. We will click add the image, stretch the container, change the image. We want that one. I'm going to duplicate this stack. We're going to place it in the other grid. We want it to still have the 48 pixels on the bottom to match the other side. We remove the margin on the left and make sure it's docked to the center and update the text. Oh. And we also need to change the color of this text to the blue that we have there. So far so good. Now to add the next section. The next section is the client testimonials. we look at this section, we've got a lot of space on the top and the bottom and at the sides. So the first thing I'm going to do is, with the section selected, in our Expector panel, we're going to go down to the docking margins and padding, and we're going to add 100 pixels padding to the top. Going to add 10% padding on the left, 100 pixels on the bottom, and 10% padding on the right for the moment. Now we're going to have this section selected. Where's me doodah? There it is. We're going to change this to a grid of 2 rows. Now we're going to add our title in the first row. This title is called Client Testimonies, all in capital letters. Make sure I'm not spelling this wrong. And let's look at the design. This has a bit of letter spacing again, and it's got a lighter grey colour, so we'll change this to that grey. I think that one's right. Yeah, it's definitely that grey. We will give this a width of max content. We will align it to the centre of this page section. Click on the design. Make sure that text is aligned centre, and we will give it a 0.1 letter spacing, which yeah, I think that's about right. We're going to tell that to dock to the top of this row, and we're also going to readjust the size of this row to max content. And as we can see, we've got quite a space there, but we will fix that quickly. We'll click on that section. We want to scroll down to the gaps, and we'll add a 32, 44. I think 44 looks about right. That text, we're going to adjust that size a little. Give it a scaling size again. I'm going to go with 24 for the smallest, 28 for the largest, because it's quite a small text that they've opted for. Next, onto the cards. For the cards, we're going to use what's called a repeater. So we'll select the repeater from the quick add, and we want it to take up the full width of this container by clicking the triangle, not the triangle, the arrows. I'm going to leave the background as the red colour for the moment, so we can see each item a little bit better. How these repeaters work is anything you put in this box will be automatically added to the other boxes. So if we look at the design first, we've got an image of the person on each card. So we will go down to the images, we attach that image to that item, and you can see it's automatically added it to each item. Now we'll change this first image, and I think, let's check the design. We want Emily first. We update that. We need to add some corners to make it circle. So we put 999, which is the maximum. And at the moment it's not quite the right shape because we need to adjust the width. We're going to change the width to 50 pixels and the height to 50 pixels. So we've got a circle. and I think we're going to need to be a bit bigger than 50 pixels. Let's do 75 and 75. I think that's about right. Might be a little big. Let's try 65. Yeah, let's go with 65. I think that looks good. Oops. Next we've got the paragraph. So we will add our paragraph. We'll fix the positioning in a bit. Grab the testimonial text. Oh, let's try that again. There we go. For the minute, I'm going to drag this down a little bit. Give this a full, give it a width of 100% at the moment. So we've got a little bit of room to work with. Let's also move everything right up to the top for the minute. Alright, note that Emily R is not meant to be there. There we go. Okay, so now we've got to do the name, Emily R, and the managing director. So we will also add another paragraph. Change that to Emily R. At the moment I've got a lot of space there. I'm going to also make this to be max content. Bring that up a bit. I'm going to duplicate this. Control D. I'm going to change that to marketing director. Okay, right. I'm going to change the. Where's my. Oh, images have been hidden by these. Oh god. Let's change these texts quickly. Let's see what's. Try that again. Right, this. The width has gone to. Alright, something dodgy's gone on here after. Oh. The issue that I've caused here is because I made these max width, and that's then pushed them right out of the container because it's made them max width in each of the boxes. What I will quickly do is change the names and I have to say I got a little bit stuck then. I wasn't really sure what went wrong for a minute. There we go. Update. Now we need to change these images. That one's for Thomas, and we need to change this one's image to Ginny. Right, Next, let's look at the design. We've got the image has got quite a big gap there, and then we've got the paragraph and another big gap there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the marketing director and the name, and I'm going to left click, right click even, I'm going to place that in a container. And I'm going to click the container, I'm going to click the paragraph and the image, and we're going to then stack them together. As we can see, we've got quite a bit of space between each one of these stacks. So we will come over to the item spaces and let's try 48. I think 48 looks about right. We will now click on the item in the repeater to get rid of that background color. This text needs to be changed to being center aligned. We've also got a bit more space between them, so with the we need to select the repeater. We need to add a little bit more gap. Let's up that to 24. Okay, that looks about right. At the minute we are on a smaller screen width, which is why it looks a little bit more squished than it does on the design. We can check it on the design width breakpoint. Yeah, I think, yeah, that looks about right. Let's move it back down to make it a bit easier for seeing. Right, we're going to make sure all of this is, I'm going to give it a max content width on that container. Make sure they're all aligned to the center, like so. We need to change some colors of these texts. Let's have a look. I think that's probably that grey. Yeah, I think it's that one. Right, we need to change the font of this text because it's using a different font, and yeah, we need to change the color of this text to the lighter grey, and need to make it a little bit smaller. So let's try 14 pixels. Oh, we need to click on the name and make sure that's docked in the center of that container. I think that looks about right. Now we'll move on to the next section, which is just these 4 images. We'll add a section. As we can see, this section it's just got 4 images. What we can do for this is we can use a repeater. So we'll come back over, we'll add a repeater again. We'll tell it to take the full width. As you can see, there's no space in this time. So we will remove the gaps. Actually, I'm going to leave those gaps for a minute. We're going to add the number of items per row to be 4. What's it doing? Oh, and then we're going to click add item, Now we've got the 4 items. Next we're going to add our image to each item. We're going to stretch that image. Now we need to change the images. We've got, what have we got first? Milk. Update, and do that for all 4. Then it was the orange one. Is it sugar cubes? Nope, ice cream cone. Ice cream cone. And then the sugar cubes. Right, now as you can see this, now we'll remove the gaps. This just, I left it, want the repeater selected, to remove the gaps afterwards so we could see where the images will go in a bit easier. And at the moment these images are too high, big. So we're going to select the items and we're going to change that minimum height to, let's see what, not 350, 250 looks like, and that hasn't changed anything. That's probably because we need to change, yeah, we need to remove this minimum height on the section. There we go. Alright, so actually they're now not big enough. Let's try 300 pixels after all. Let's have a look. Nope. Let's try 400. I think 400 looks pretty good. Now we're going to create the header. So we've got, I'm going to move that down for a minute, and I'm going to select the footer. Even we're going to do the footer, not the header, and I'm going to give that a minimum height of 500 pixels for the minute, just so we've got a bit of breathing room to work with. So as we can see there, we need to change the background color to the light green. So let's do that first. There we go, that looks a lot darker than it does on the design. Let me just check the style guide. Go back and make sure this is converted properly. This is the code they gave me. 458 C78. Here's the right colour. It just looks a little bit different to the picture. It's the colour they've said that it's meant to be. We got a, oh, we have got a darker green. Right, sorry about that. Next we want to add a shape for the logo, because the logo is an SVG. So you have to use a shape, you can't use a image. Update that. We need to change the colour of that to this darker green. I'm going to give that a width of 200 pixels to see how that looks. That looks a bit too big. Let's do a 150. The minute it's got a lot of space there, so I'm going to change the height to a pixel value as well. Why? I'm not sure why it's got so much space on each side, but it's not. Oh, we can just drag and make it smaller. There we go, that's better. Right, then we've got the links. So we will click add elements, and we want menus, and then we're going to want a horizontal menu. We're going to attach that there. We're going to click manage menu. We're going to add manage menu sites even, and then add a new menu. And this is going to be the, let's add a capital footer menu. On this footer menu we don't want this home link, so we need to change that. We want that to be the about page, and we want to change also, edit that to read about. Then we're going to add the other site pages. Oh, I forgot I could do it this way, never mind. Whoops. Services and projects, they're added. There also need to make sure we've got the text color is this darker green color, and on the selected it's also the darker green color, or clicked even. Okay, there's definitely a color mismatch here. I will sort that in a minute. Then we've got the social media icons. There is a couple of ways of doing this in Editor X. You can go to the social and embed and add a social bar. Oops. And then you can select which one you want, but you can't change the color of the icons, which for this design we need them to be this green color. So what we're going to do, instead of doing it that way, just wanted to show you could add it this way, is we're going to add a container. I'm going to give this container a height of 100 pixels, which is too much. Let's do 50 pixels. Let's move that up, and then we're going to add a shape. I'm going to attach that shape to this box. We're also going to change this container and give it into a grid that has 4 columns for the minute. We'll fix the rest of the spacing. We're going to duplicate each one of these shapes. We want that one in the second column, that one in the third column, and that one in the fourth column. We want all of these to be docked. Oh, actually, I just realised something. This is not the best way to do it. We'll get rid of all of that actually, and we will use a repeater, because we're going to change the height of each one of these to 50 pixels. We're going to add an item. We want there to be 4 items. I'm going to drag that up to make it a little bit easier for us to work with. We're then going to add a shape to each of these items. Let's change this first shape, site files, and we want, what is it first? Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, Instagram, then it was Twitter, and then Pinterest. There we go. Next, these are need to be a bit bigger. So instead of doing it percentage, I'm going to let's try 25 pixels and see how that looks. Let's go to full screen on the image. I think 25 looks good. Then we're going to select this repeater and I'm going to change this to a max content for the width. And we're going to give it a min width of 200 because they don't have that much space between them. I'm going to click on this repeater and we're going to go down to each of these and on the items and get rid of that background color first. Okay, I think the spacing looks about right there as well. Make sure these images are docked to the center of each item. Right, now we need to adjust this green background because it's definitely not the green that is in the image. So what we're going to do for that is I'm going to go to Figma and we're going to use the color picker to grab what this green color is and copy that hex value. I'm going to go to the background. We're going to, instead of putting the colors through the theme colors, we're just going to add it to my colors. There we go, that's the green that it's meant to be. Now we're going to stack all three of these together and they've got quite a bit of space there, so we'll adjust that as well. Let's try 48. 48 tends to be my go-to. Yeah, I think 48 looks a bit much actually. Let's do 40. Yeah, I think 40 looks good. Looks close. We're going to get rid of that min height for the moment. Oh, I forgot. I'm going to actually do a couple of undos here because I forgot about this one. I'm going to just undo that stack altogether. Alright. Went too far with the undos then. That's not the green. Is that it? Yeah, that's the one. Alright, now we're going to stack all of these. And then we're going to change the item spacing back to 40. We're going to get rid of the minimum height on this footer for the minute. And then we will add, where is it? The padding on the top and the padding on the bottom. Okay, I don't think that's quite 100 pixels. Let's try 50 on the top and 50 on the bottom. Make sure this is docked to the center and to the top of the section. I think that. Click off so we can see. I think that looks pretty good. I think there's a little bit too much padding still on this one, so let's try and drop that to 32. I think that looks a bit more like it. Okay, and we will now change this little bit of footer information. We want to make sure we copy how it would be on the challenge by Frontend Mentor. Then I'm going to go with made by, created by Bailey. And we're going to select this front end mentor text and add a link. I'm going to grab the link href from the HTML file they done. We want that to open in a new window. We will leave those SEO settings, and this I'm also going to highlight my name, and I'm going to add that a link but to my own website. Get rid of all that. This is the desktop version of the site done now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Next week I will upload a video of me making this website responsive for tablet and mobile, and we will add some hover effects and animations in that video. Please like, comment and subscribe. Thank you for watching.